Sarah Paulson, you are having quite the busy week, aren't you? Your movie just opened, Ocean's 8, the #1 movie in the whole world, and you're actually beaming in from London to talk to us right now.
I'm beaming in from London. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. I've done a whole press junket day with all the girls. It's been really wonderful. All the women. I always say girls. I don't know why I do that. All the women.
I saw the movie. It's absolutely amazing. It's so fun, and the cast is just amazing. So great job. Keep up the good work.
I just feel very lucky that they asked me to be in it at all. It was, I mean, we did shoot this like almost 2 years ago. So it was right after People versus OJ. So I can pretty much be assured that that had something to do with why they asked me to be a part of it. So that was the gift that just has kept on giving, which is so amazing.
Well, thank you so much for squeezing in some Gold Derby time into your schedule to talk about
always
one of the best seasons of American Horror Story, Cult, which is eligible at the 2018 Emmy Awards. Even though it aired last year, it is eligible now. People are voting now.
Yeah.
So of all of the seasons of Horror Story, this one in particular was very grounded. Like there was not a lot of ghosts.
Well, and there were no fisheye lenses, and it wasn't sort of stylistically, it wasn't creating a different world. The goal of it was to sort of, part of the horror and the scary parts of it was how close to home it was, and close to the bone, and how I think there was a serious effort made, even from a design standpoint, to make the rooms of the house smaller, to make everything feel a little bit more ordinary in a way, like any regular American citizen and how they might be living.
And your character, Ally Mayfair-Richards, I heard a rumor.
Like the hyphen.
Yes, you have to have the hyphen.
I have to have the hyphen, yeah.
I heard a rumor that her phobias and fears were kind of derived from your personal phobias. Is this true?
It's not untrue. It's just not quite as I always worry somehow that the idea that they're my phobias makes it seem like it was probably really easy to perform in a way. And it's actually the reverse is true, typically, I think. But yes, I do have what is called trypophobia or trypophobia. I'm not pronouncing it correctly because I'd like to try to distance myself from the word as much as possible, because it really gives me a tickle in the back of my throat, which is a fear of holes and hollow spaces and things. I'm not great with bees. So, clowns don't scare me. I don't know if there's been some rumor around that I'm afraid of clowns. I don't like them. I think they're creepy as hell, but I'm not frightened of them.
After American Horror Story, I love clowns now. I never had a fear or anything, but now, I mean, Twisty, I dressed up for Twisty for Halloween.
You did?
I did, yes.
That's so cool.
What was it like working with John Carroll Lynch again?
Well, what's amazing is very, very early on in my career, I worked with him. I did a pilot that did not sell, called Shaughnessy, and we were in it together. And I wish that, both in Freak Show and then again in Cult, I didn't get to work with him. I got to be reminded of him daily when I would look at that comic book that my son was reading all the time, and mostly just the sort of extraordinary work of the hair and makeup department to create that incredibly scary character.
Ally went through this whole transition from the first episode to the last, where it really, in that final scene in particular, so spoiler alert if anyone hasn't finished it yet, but she becomes kind of a cult leader in a way. I would love to get your take on that final scene where she puts on the green robe.
Yeah, which is the robe that the Scum Girls wore. Frances Conroy has it. I think Lena, didn't she wear it too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a big conversation that Ryan and Tim Minear and we all had, towards the end of the season of like, how interesting would it be to have a person who had been victimized terribly and horribly at the hands of this cult leader, and lost her family, her wife, everything that she held dear, everything that made her feel safe in the world, and had it all stripped away. And that when she rises again and sort of comes into her own, she herself becomes some version, albeit one with not so many murderous tendencies or self-aggrandizing tendencies, but still one of power that she's seeking, you know, that it would be very interesting to have some kind of mirror of that, of sort of becoming what you're most resisting. And we just thought it was very interesting, and to sort of leave it a bit murky so the audience could pull from it what they wanted, which I always think is sort of an exciting way to watch something when you're not entirely sure what the, not what the purpose was, because there was a very specific point and reason behind it, but that you have to wonder what it means. I always think, I personally like to watch things where I walk away going, wait, does that mean X or Y, or what if it, oh, does that turn everything we've you know, been thinking for the whole season into something else? I always like that kind of show, personally. So I was really happy with how it ended story-wise.
Yeah, I love that ending because different people saw different things in it and what it meant.
And it's mysterious, and it's really, I just love something that makes you walk away and you're really thinking about it.
Would you like to play Ally again in a future season to see where she is now, what she's become?
Well, I feel that pretty much about all the characters I've played on American Horror Story, because of the anthological nature of the series, you end up leaving this story that you've been entirely immersed in, and then you're doing the show again, but you're not connected to that character at all. And so it's a sort of confusing feeling, because every year we are starting from scratch. You're not putting on the familiar clothes, even though you're at the same studio where you've been shooting. You're working with the same department heads and the same crew, and you're shooting American Horror Story, but nothing that identified it to you in the past is still happening. So it's kind of wild. And I really feel that way about Cordelia. I think any of the characters I've played that have had like a full 180 by the time the season's over and have become other people than they were in the start, Lana Winters, all of them, the idea of, and then especially where you leave them, we leave Cordelia at the moment of the height of her powers. What does she do? Does she become like her mother? Has her own newly found power? Has it turned on her in any way? Has she become heady with it? Like, what has happened? I'm so curious about whether she used it for good or whether her own ego would. So I feel the same way about Ally. It's like, for the first time in her life, she has real ownership of her experience, and she's not letting anybody sort of dictate what that is. And that is very new for her. And I wonder if like it happens for most human beings, you get a little taste of something, and sometimes you can take a wrong turn with it. And I just would be really, really interested to see what that would mean for her.
And we have to talk about Evan Peters. He has always been great on this show, but Cult was, I think, the pinnacle of him as an actor.
I have always, I think he's one of the best actors working. I think people who watch the show and know his work would always agree with that sentiment. I do think this year he was able to showcase, and one of the most sort of terrifying and also magical and exciting things about being on American Horror Story is that these scripts are being written as we're going. So like, Evan doesn't have 3 months prior to starting the season knowing that by episode 5 he's going to be playing David Koresh, or he's going to be playing Charles Manson, and then he doesn't have months of time to immerse himself in research, and so all this has to happen so quickly. And so for him to digest that knowledge that he's going to be doing that, and then 2 days later turn around a performance that is so nuanced and fully realized, I think is a real testament to how extraordinary he is. And I often think about that in terms of the actors on the show, because everything is happening in real time. And by the time you're watching the first episode, we're still, I remember during Coven, we shot the finale episode of Coven 2 weeks before it was on the air.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how behind it is. 2 weeks. And we were all going, oh my God, are we going to get this done? And the hours were crazy, and we had to leave New Orleans, and it was, we were finishing the season. It was very crazy. And so sometimes that happens on Horror Story, because we start out ahead, we've got all the episodes going, and then slowly as we're starting to shoot the season, things start to slow down. Stories are going to change, plot things are changing, and so then all of a sudden we're not ahead of the game anymore. And then before you know it, we're on the air, and you're sort of going, are we going to get this done in time? And so I think part of what's so extraordinary about the people who work on American Horror Story is you can really see they get their mettle tested. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to be able to think quickly and create something quickly. Although I think sometimes that's actually kind of an exciting way to work, where you get your brain out of it and you don't overthink it and you just take action and you do. And then sometimes I think it gives the most, alive, visceral responses.
I don't know if the fans truly appreciate what Ryan Murphy and the writers do each season, which is just create a whole new world with new characters from scratch each year. And you've done this for 7 years now, going into season 8. He must be just completely wiped out.
Wouldn't you think he'd be so tired? And he's not. He's so, he's got a lot going on right now, work-wise, and with Pose, and 911 being such a success, and Versace, and it's just been a really, really wild time. But I think, like any very creative person, I think you almost thrive on that kind of feverish work. I think just everything's flowing, and all your creative juices are going, and so I think it lends itself to the kind of work he's doing, I think. Although I do worry about him. Sometimes I wonder if he needs to take to his bed just for a couple of days. Just for a couple of days.
Right. You got to work with some brand new actors in Cult. Billie Lourd was a favorite of yours, I think. Based on your Instagram, you guys were always posting photos together.
Well, I've known her for a very long time because I knew her mother, and so I knew her when she was 8 years old. So it was the sort of slightly maternal, but more of a sort of big sister feeling of just wanting to make a lot of space for her where we were. Yeah, I think she's a wonderful actress, and she's a great person and a real team player, and she was a kind of wonderful addition to our cast, I think.
And Billy Eichner too, which was kind of a unique casting choice because he's known for doing these crazy comedies and the street show where he's just running down New York accosting people, but he really gave it this.
Wasn't he amazing? I thought he was amazing. There was a couple of scenes where we had to do together where he had to get so emotional and so volatile and so quickly, and take after take after take. I was just like, wow. I mean, I personally think people that can be that funny, if given the opportunity, they can probably just wipe the floor with all of the dramatic actors in the world, really, because comedy's, I think, the hardest thing to do. Mm-hmm. He's another real genius person. I'm so glad we have him on the show.
It's about this time when you go back to film again, right? It's usually in June.
I start on Wednesday.
Do you know anything yet, or are they keeping you in the dark?
Oh no, I know things. I know things.
Are you going to tease us at all?
I can only sort of, I can't say anything new, but I can confirm now that I've read it, all that Ryan has said publicly about the hybrid nature of the tone, of it being a real combination of sort of earlier days of Horror Story and tone mixed with the newer versions of things. Like it's, I think he's kind of doing something again where he's reinventing it. And it's exciting. And my character is something I've never done on the show.
And Kathy Bates is back, right?
Kathy Bates is back. I missed her so much. I'm very excited about that.
I missed her too. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, though, because when she comes back now, I'm going to be so happy.
Yeah, it was something I think we all, I mean, I miss Jessica. I do, you know what I mean? And it's been so long now. She's not been on the show. I mean, this season will be, I think she did 1 through 4, right? So we're going into season 8. This will be as many seasons as she hasn't been on as she was on. But I feel like she was American. She was American Horror Story. And so it will always feel a little strange not to have her around. And yeah. Are
you going to be directing an episode in season 8?
I believe so. That seems to be where it's at, yeah. And I feel as excited and terrified as I've ever felt about doing anything. Because as much as I think I can imagine myself doing it in terms of, from a performance standpoint, in terms of knowing how to help an actor, and not necessarily that I would be able to do that, but at least knowing the language to speak or how I would like to be spoken to about approaching a scene. But in terms of where to put the camera, I don't know about that. I don't know. So, but I've always wanted to do it, and I do think having the safety and security of a place where I've worked, that is like my second home, a place where I've worked for so many years, that I feel that I will be held in a proper way, that if I make mistakes and no one will make me look too bad. Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Murphy, he's won an Emmy for directing, so I'm sure he's a great teacher, I'm sure.
He is a great teacher, and the great thing about Ryan, and this could also be helpful too in this environment, is that we have a shorthand with each other, and so he can communicate something to me that I understand because of our working history. And I think I could maybe do the same thing with Evan, and he could do the same with me when he directs, is that we have a real understanding actor language with one another, that I know I could say something to him that would be helpful to him, and vice versa. Because we do that for each other anyway. So that part is exciting. Where to put the camera part's still totally terrifying.
Emmy voting is going on right now, and I've always wanted to ask you, you're a voter. What do you look for when you go to mark your ballot? What kind of performances are, you don't have to name names, or unless you want to, you don't have to name names, but what do you look for as an actor voting on an actor?
For me, I mean, it's not even just from a voting standpoint, but for me, I feel like I'm just looking for the thing that feels the most honest, and I'm looking for a lack of vanity in a performance. And, you know, I think sometimes it's very hard not to worry about your likability as a performer. And, you know, because we spend so much time hustling and trying to get another job, that part of your job sort of feels like it's to be charming, or to be likable, or to be liked, or for someone to find you attractive or appealing, all these things that really have nothing to do with acting. And so it's really hard to not let that infiltrate your brain and affect you as a performer. So when I'm watching something, the thing I'm always struck by is when I can see that vanity and that need or desire to be liked has not gotten in front of telling the truth as a character. And also somebody who's there to serve the story. Somebody who's not like doing a performance that may be brilliant, but that feels very like a look at me performance, and that has to do with wanting to be impressive or trying to impress, rather than being there as a means to telling the story from the director, the filmmaker, or the writer, that you are just part of a larger picture, and that it isn't all about you. I think sometimes in performances you can feel those things, and so that tends to be what I spark to.
I asked Matthew McConaughey that similar question about Oscar voting, and he said, "I look for truth, man. It's all about truth."
I think that's true. It's true, because you can feel it, and it doesn't even have to be the performance. The other thing I think is that people look for flash. They look for like extremes, and sometimes I think there's nothing harder to do in the world as an actor than to just ask someone a question as naturally and as honestly and as genuinely interested or not interested in the answer, whatever your character's want is. I think sometimes the simplest things are actually the hardest to execute with real truth and honesty. Sometimes the extremes, you have more freedom because nobody knows exactly what would be permissible if you're playing a crazy person. So anything you do kind of works. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, the truth, man. I'm going to go with what McConaughey said. Truth, man. Looking for the truth.
Before we sign off, is there any final thoughts you have on Ally Mayfair-Richards? She was a very, very character filled with anxieties at the beginning, and she ends a very powerful type of a position. I loved her whole wave of emotions from beginning to end, and the power that she came up with by the finale was great to watch as a viewer.
I think any character that you get to play, where you get to have an arc and it isn't where you start is not where you end, is always exciting to play. And I think in the beginning I had a chunk of episodes, the first 3 or 4, where it was me crying and running and screaming and being victimized and also feeling like I was going mad. And I've said this to you before, you know, your body doesn't know that it's not actually happening to you. So it was a kind of wonderful thing by the time we got to episode 6 or 7, when the tide started turning and Ally started to become wise to what was hip to what was going on, and then takes the power back and poisons her wife and finds a way to protect her son and herself. And I sort of, it was a sort of very vindicating experience, and also one of those things that makes you feel like there's a funny blurred line between your acting reality and your own reality, because you have taken this full journey with this character, and you hope that the audience has the same response. But when I began the season, Ally was not the woman she is by the end. And so when you finally say goodbye to that character and you think, oh, she really felt like a real person to me. You know, it's like you're not just playing one little section of someone's life, but over the course of those 12 episodes or 11 episodes, however many we did last year, I really felt like I tried to inhabit a fully realized person with so many flaws. And that's the other thing that I love about her and about so many of the things I get to do on Horror Stories, that I don't think I've played too many heroes. You know what I mean? Like it's not that I haven't had heroic moments in different roles on the show, but I really love that Ryan does that. He gives actors opportunities to play real people who fail, and you can still root for them and you can still want them to succeed, even though they're behaving in ways that may be despicable or, you know, so I relish that, and I feel very lucky that I get to continue to play over there. And like I said, they're gonna have to drag me out of there kicking and screaming, dentures. I mean, you know.
So you're going to be doing American Horror Story when you're 80.
I would like to. People may be really sick of me by then, but I would like to. I do think, you know, there are many people who keep saying to me, like, don't you want to move on from that? People really do ask me that, and it always is such a head scratcher to me, because I feel like as an actor, to have a job that is consistent, that you can rely on, that still challenges you, we still get to work with some of the best actors in the business on something that is incredibly creative and changing all the time. I'd be hard pressed to find that almost in any other environment with this kind of consistency. So I can't imagine. I'm not kidding. They're going to have to drag me out of there. I'll try to take all the furniture. And
it allows you to do things like The Post, which was nominated for Best Picture, and Ocean's 8, the #1 movie. Like, you do have your time to do these other projects.
I have been very lucky, partly because Ryan is, I mean, there are plenty of people who wouldn't be able to make the concessions that he makes. And because our cast is so large, sometimes he's able to move things around and make things possible. But yeah, I have my freedom to do the things that are other than American Horror Story that create a wider reach of opportunity for me from an acting standpoint, which is wonderful. But I have this home base that I get to come home to, with actors I love and material I like and feel challenged by. And I'm still, it's like being in a long marriage or something. I'm still in love with my job, and I don't care how long it's been. You know, why would you want to leave a place that's so good to you?
Right. Well, Sarah, thank you for chatting with us. Have fun in London.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know you're up really early, so thank you. Okay, well, you look good.
Thanks. Bye-bye.